By the time Mara Ellis realized the room had gone quiet, the silence had already started screaming at her. It was nearly midnight in Columbus, Ohio. Outside her apartment, the city hummed with the distant reassurance of traffic and late-night sirens, but inside, the only sound came from her laptop fan struggling to breathe. Mara sat hunched at her desk, blue light bleaching her face pale, her reflection barely visible in the black glass of the screen between videos. She was a content moderator. A digital sanitation worker. That was the phrase HR used, keeping the internet safe. Mara preferred to think of it as standing knee-deep in humanity's worst impulses, armed with a checkbox and a deadline. She clicked play. Another video loaded. Grainy. Low resolution. Shaky camera. The usual signs. The timer in the corner ticked down from 60 seconds, giving her exactly 1 minute to decide, remove or allow, escalate or ignore. She leaned closer, heart already bracing itself. The video opened on a woman standing in a dimly lit hallway. The image stuttered, buffering, then stabilized. The woman's face filled the frame, wide eyes, lips trembling, breath coming too fast. She looked terrified. Mara frowned. Something about the framing felt deliberate. Too cinematic. The lighting was wrong, not the accidental harsh glare of a phone flashlight, but carefully placed shadows, sculpting the woman's cheekbones, hollowing her eyes. It looked staged. Like a scene from a low-budget horror film. The woman in the video whispered something Mara couldn't quite hear before the image abruptly cut to black. Video ended. Mara exhaled slowly. No violence shown. Psychological distress, yes, but nothing actionable. She marked it for escalation, possible roleplay or film clip, and moved on. The next video autoplayed before she could stop it. This one opened on a different location. A kitchen. Old appliances. Yellowed wallpaper. The camera panned slowly, deliberately, as if whoever held it wanted the viewer to take everything in. Then it stopped on a man sitting at a table. His face froze Mara in place. It was the same woman. No, not the same woman. The face was wrong for the body, stretched slightly, as if pulled too tight over unfamiliar bone. The eyes were the same, though. Wide. Terrified. Looking straight into the camera. The man, wearing her face, opened his mouth. The jaw cracked audibly, sound distorted through cheap speakers. Mara slammed her spacebar, pausing the video. Her pulse roared in her ears. Okay, she whispered to the empty room. Okay. That's enough. She hovered her cursor over remove content, tagging it as graphic manipulation, deepfake horror. Her fingers trembled as she clicked submit. The queue refreshed. Another video appeared. Same face. Mara's stomach dropped. This time, the face was older. Bruised shadows ringed the eyes. The mouth was sewn shut with something dark and uneven. The person, thing, stood against a concrete wall, chains rattling softly as it shifted its weight. The timer began counting down. No, Mara breathed. No, no, no. She checked the metadata panel. Different uploader. Different timestamps. Different IP addresses scattered across the country. These weren't reposts. They were original uploads. And every single one used her face. Mara pushed back from the desk, chair legs screeching against the floor. Her apartment suddenly felt too small, the walls pressing in. She rubbed her arms, trying to chase away the crawling sensation spreading beneath her skin. This had to be coincidence. A face similar to hers. That happened all the time. She'd seen it before, people mistaking strangers for celebrities, relatives, old classmates. The brain loved patterns. Loved familiar shapes. She laughed weakly, the sound brittle. Get it together. She leaned forward again. The next video started with darkness. Then a faint light flickered on, revealing a narrow room. A basement, maybe. The camera slowly approached someone kneeling on the floor, their back to the lens. The person turned. Mara's breath caught so hard it hurt. It was her. Not just her face, everything. The small scar near the left eyebrow from a childhood fall. The uneven way her bangs never quite sat right. Even the mole on her neck she'd hated since high school. The Mara in the video smiled. It was wrong. Too wide. Teeth showing for too long. The video's audio crackled to life. She's watching, the other Mara whispered. Her voice was identical. Same slight rasp, same Midwest flatness. She always watches. Mara tore off her headphones, heart slamming against her ribs. The whisper echoed anyway, lingering in her mind like an afterimage burned into the retina. She slammed the laptop shut. The room plunged into darkness, broken only by the thin line of streetlight leaking through the blinds. Her reflection stared back at her from the black screen, wide-eyed, pale, afraid. For a moment, she didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then her phone buzzed on the desk. A notification from work. New high-priority content assigned. Immediate review required. Mara's hands shook as she reached for the laptop again. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the lid. This wasn't just content. This wasn't just another sick internet trend or experimental horror project. Someone was recreating deaths. And somehow, impossibly, they were using her. As the laptop opened and the screen flickered back to life, Mara felt a cold certainty settle deep in her chest. The queue wasn't showing her random violence. It was showing her the many ways she was going to die. And whoever was uploading them already knew how it would end. Mara didn't sleep. She lay on her bed with the lights on, laptop shut but pulsing in her mind like a second heart. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw herself staring back, smiling too wide, lips torn or sewn or split, eyes begging and mocking at the same time. By dawn, her sheets were damp with sweat, her jaw aching from how tightly she'd clenched it all night. At 6:47 a.m., her alarm went off. She laughed. A short, cracked sound. Of course it did. The world, apparently, was still running on schedule. Mara dragged herself up and into the bathroom. The mirror above the sink greeted her with a pale, hollowed version of herself. She leaned closer, searching for changes, dark veins under the skin, subtle distortions, anything that suggested the woman from the videos had begun bleeding into reality. Nothing. She splashed cold water on her face and whispered, "You're real. You're here." The mirror didn't answer. By 8 o'clock, she was logged back into the moderation system. She told herself she just needed answers. Confirmation that this was some elaborate prank, a viral horror project slipping through the cracks. Once she escalated it properly, once the forensic team stepped in, it would stop. That's what professionals did. They stopped things. The queue loaded. Her stomach sank. Every new upload in her priority folder was tagged under the same internal classification. Simulated death, high realism. The system rarely used that tag. It was reserved for videos so convincing that even seasoned moderators needed a second review. Mara clicked the first one. This video opened on a hospital room. Clean. White. Too clean. Machines hummed softly in the background, their beeping slow and steady. The camera drifted toward the bed. She was lying there. Tubed. Bruised. Eyes half open, unfocused. Her chest rose and fell shallowly, like she was already forgetting how to breathe. A man stood beside the bed, his face hidden by shadow. He leaned down and brushed hair away from her. Eyes with almost unbearable tenderness. Time of death, 1412, he said calmly. The monitor flatlined. Mara slapped the laptop shut so hard her hand stung. She stumbled backward, knocking into the desk. Her pulse hammered wildly, each beat echoing wrong, wrong, wrong through her skull. This wasn't just her face anymore. This was her body. Her mannerisms. Even the hospital room felt familiar, like the memory of a place she hadn't been to yet. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't work. Unknown number. You're doing great. Keep watching. Mara dropped the phone as if it had burned her. It clattered to the floor, the screen still glowing with the message. Her breathing turned shallow, panicked. She crouched, backing away until her shoulders hit the couch. No, she whispered. No. This isn't happening. She grabbed the phone with shaking fingers and typed back. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Someone who knows you better than you know yourself. Her throat tightened. She stared at the screen, waiting for the typing indicator to reappear. It didn't. Mara did the only thing she could think of. She called her supervisor. Diane answered on the third ring, voice brisk and irritated. Mara, it's early. Is this urgent? Yes, Mara said, words tumbling out too fast. There's content in my queue, someone's using my face. My voice. It's not just similar, it's me. They're killing me in the videos. A pause. Then Diane sighed. We've had this conversation before, Mara. Extended exposure can cause identification issues. You need to ground yourself. I'm serious, Mara insisted. Check the files. The metadata, We did, Diane cut in. The videos were reviewed by secondary moderation. They're flagged as fictional recreations. No policy violations. Mara's mouth went dry. Fictional. Yes. Extremely convincing, but fictional. Look, I'm recommending you take a mental health day. Unpaid, obviously. Log out. The line went dead. Mara stared at her phone, stunned. They'd seen them. And they'd dismissed them. Her laptop chimed. A new video had auto-loaded, playing softly despite the lid being half-closed. Sound leaked into the room, wet, rhythmic. Mara froze. Slowly, she opened the screen. The video showed a bathroom. Her bathroom. The chipped tile near the tub. The faint water stain on the ceiling. The mirror with the hairline crack in the corner. The camera was positioned exactly where her laptop now sat. The Mara in the video stood in front of the mirror, crying. Her shoulders shook violently, hands braced against the sink. Blood dripped steadily from her nose, splattering porcelain. She looked up. Their eyes met. The Mara in the video smiled through the blood. You shouldn't have told them, she said gently. Now they won't help you. The video didn't cut away. Instead, the other Mara reached behind her back and slowly lifted a pair of scissors into view. Real ones. Heavy. Dull metal glinting. Mara screamed and slammed the laptop shut, collapsing to the floor as terror finally broke through her denial. This wasn't prediction. This wasn't fiction. This was rehearsal. And whatever was wearing her face was getting closer to the final take. By noon, Mara's apartment smelled like burnt coffee and fear. She hadn't moved the scissors from the bathroom sink. They sat exactly where she'd left them, blades closed, innocent looking, as if daring her to accuse them of anything. She avoided the mirror now. Brushed her teeth staring at the wall. Washed her hands with her eyes shut. It felt childish, but every reflective surface had begun to feel like a doorway, one she was terrified might open the moment she looked too long. Her laptop remained closed. It didn't matter. The videos played anyway, looping behind her eyes. The hospital flatline. The basement whisper. The bathroom rehearsal. Each one felt less like fiction and more like memory being planted, seeded into her mind with surgical precision. Mara paced the living room, phone clenched in her fist. She searched the unknown number again. No caller ID. No carrier info. It was as if the message had come from nowhere. Or everywhere. She opened her contacts and scrolled until she found the name she'd been avoiding. Evan. Her ex. 3 years gone. 3 years of distance that had felt clean, controlled. He'd been the last person to really know her, her habits, her fears, the way she talked to herself when she thought no one was listening. She hesitated. Then she hit call. It rang twice before Evan answered, voice groggy. Mara. Relief surged so hard it made her dizzy. I need you to listen to me, she said. I need you to believe me. A pause. Okay, he said slowly. What's wrong? She told him everything. The job. The videos. Her face. Her apartment. The message. Silence stretched on the line. Finally, Evan said, Mara, are you sure this isn't stress? You always did this when things got too heavy. You'd. I'm not imagining this, she snapped, panic sharpening her words. Come over. Please. Just come see. Another pause. Then, reluctantly, all right. I'll be there in 20. The moment she hung up, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You shouldn't. Bring an audience. Her stomach dropped. She turned slowly, scanning the apartment. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. The walls stared back at her, mute and complicit. Her laptop chimed. She hadn't opened it. With trembling hands, she lifted the lid. The moderation interface was gone. In its place was a single video window, already playing. This one was different. It wasn't staged. No dramatic lighting. No careful framing. The camera shook slightly, like someone holding it with nervous hands. The timestamp in the corner showed live. The feed showed her front door. From the inside. Mara's breath hitched. No, she whispered. No, no, no. A soft knock echoed through the apartment. 3 taps. Polite. The door handle turned. The video's audio picked it up perfectly, the faint click of the lock sliding free. The door creaked open. Someone stepped inside. It was Evan. Mara spun toward the real door just as it opened. Evan stood there, keys still in hand, concern etched across his face. Hey, he said gently. You okay? Relief nearly dropped her to her knees. Evan, thank God. Behind him, unnoticed, her laptop continued streaming. The camera angle shifted. Now it showed her. From behind. Mara followed Evan inside, rambling, trying to explain again, pointing at the laptop. It's showing things before they happen. It's watching me. Evan frowned. Mara, there's nothing. The laptop speakers crackled. A familiar voice filled the room. Don't let him touch you. Mara froze. Evan turned toward the sound. What was that? On screen, the camera zoomed closer to Evan's face. His expression there wasn't confused. It was cold. Calculating. Mara's pulse thundered. Evan, she whispered, backing away. Step away from the laptop. He didn't. Instead, the Evan on screen smiled. The real Evan mirrored it a second later. The sight shattered something inside her. No, she choked. You're not. I am, he said calmly. I always was. The room felt like it tilted. Mara stumbled back, hitting the wall. This is fake. You're fake. Evan sighed, almost sadly. You always did hate mirrors. The laptop video split in two. On one side, Mara, standing exactly where she was now, terror etched into every line of her face. On the other, Evan, standing in front of her, lifting the scissors from the bathroom sink. In reality, Evan's hands were empty. On screen, they were not. Mara screamed and bolted for the door, heart slamming, vision blurring. She fumbled with the handle. And it didn't move. Locked. From the outside. Behind her, Evan's footsteps were unhurried. Calm. Certain. Mara, he said softly. It's okay. This is just a reenactment. Her phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. Playback error corrected. The laptop speakers hissed, then went silent. And for the first time since this began, the video stopped predicting. It started directing. Mara didn't remember screaming. She remembered the pressure in her chest, the way her lungs forgot their purpose, the sharp sting in her palms as she pounded on the locked door. She remembered Evan's voice behind her, steady, almost soothing, as if he were talking her through a panic attack instead of towards something far worse. Then the lights went out. Not the power, the lights inside her head. Consciousness dimmed like a screen fading to black. When she came back, the first thing she noticed was the smell. Bleach. Old metal. Damp concrete. Her wrists ached. Mara blinked, vision swimming. She was sitting in a chair, arms bound tightly with plastic restraints that bit into her skin. Her legs were tied too. The room around her was unfinished, raw, exposed beams, hanging wires, a single bare bulb swaying gently overhead. A basement. Her basement. No, his. Her laptop sat open on a folding table in front of her. The screen glowed softly, illuminating the room with that familiar, sickly blue. The moderation interface was back, as if nothing strange had ever happened. At the top of the screen, a notification blinked. Content review in progress. Mara groaned, her throat dry and burning. Evan, she whispered. Her voice sounded small in the open space. Please. Footsteps approached from the shadows. Evan stepped into the light, sleeves rolled up, face calm. He looked exactly like he had the last time she'd seen him years ago, right before she packed a bag and left without explanation. I knew you'd wake up soon, he said. You always had a high tolerance. For what? She croaked. He gestured to the laptop. Exposure. Her stomach twisted. What did you do to me? Evan tilted his head, studying her like a puzzle. I gave you context. He pulled up a chair and sat across from her. On the laptop, a video autoplayed. This one was different. No theatrics. No careful lighting. Just raw footage of a dim room and a woman tied to a chair. Mara stared at the screen. The woman was her. Not a recreation. Not an imitation. Her hair was tangled the same way it was now. Her wrists were bound in the same place, reddened exactly the same. Even the slow, panicked rise and fall of her chest matched. She looked down at herself. Then back at the screen. I don't understand, Mara whispered. Evan leaned forward. That's the problem with moderation, he said gently. You're trained to decide what's real and what's allowed. But you never stop to ask who benefits from that distinction. The video timer began counting down. 60 seconds. Mara shook her head violently. Turn it off. Please. I'll do anything. I know, Evan said softly. On screen, the Mara in the video began to cry. Evan continued, do you remember the first Faces of Death film? 70s. Claimed everything was real. People argued for decades about what was staged and what wasn't. It didn't matter. The effect was the same. He smiled. Belief is the real violence. The on-screen Mara looked straight into the camera. Into her. Remove content, the video Mara whispered. Please. Mara sobbed. I can't. I don't know how. You do, Evan said. He reached over and gently placed her bound hand on the laptop's trackpad. You've done it thousands of times. Her fingers shook violently. The cursor hovered over the familiar buttons. Allow. Remove. Escalate. The timer ticked down. 45 seconds. What happens if I don't? Mara whispered. Evan's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then it publishes. Her heart slammed painfully against her ribs. Publishes where? Everywhere, he said. The same places you've been cleaning for years. On screen, the camera angle shifted slightly. The Mara in the video winced as if anticipating pain. Mara screamed. Stop it. Evan stood and walked behind her. She felt his breath near her ear. You wanted this job because you thought distance made you safe, he murmured. Watching instead of living. Judging instead of acting. The timer hit 20 seconds. Mara's vision blurred with tears. You're sick. He laughed quietly. No. I'm thorough. She remembered then. Not everything. Just fragments. Evan hunched over his laptop at night, eyes hollow, tabs open that he'd slam shut when she walked by. The way he talked about videos he couldn't unsee. The anger when she told him to stop watching. Someone has to look, he'd said. Someone has to document it. You were never a victim, Mara whispered hoarsely. You wanted this. Evan didn't deny it. The timer hit 10 seconds. On screen, the other Mara began to shake violently, restraints creaking. Mara felt something cold slide down her own wrist. A blade. Evan pressed it gently into her palm. Moderate, he whispered. 5 seconds. Her mind fractured under the pressure. If she clicked remove, did the video stop? Or did she disappear? If she clicked allow, did the world see her die? She didn't know. She just knew she couldn't keep watching herself beg. With a broken sob, Mara slammed her palm down. Escalate. The screen froze. The timer stopped. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the interface changed. A new message appeared, written in stark white letters. Escalation accepted. Human review required. Evan stepped back slowly, confusion flickering across his face. That's not supposed to. The basement lights flickered. The video resumed, but it was no longer her on the screen. It was Evan. Bound to the chair. Screaming. Mara gasped, staring in disbelief as the camera zoomed in on his face, terror raw and unfiltered. A voice spoke from the speakers. Not hers. Not his. Cold. Neutral. Endless. Thank you for your report, it said. A reviewer will be with you shortly. Evan turned toward her, panic finally cracking his composure. Mara, he whispered. What did you do? She stared back at him through tears, hands still bound, heart pounding. I asked for help, she said. And somewhere in the dark, something began watching them both. The bulb overhead stopped swaying. It froze mid-arc, as if time itself had been flagged for inspection. Mara noticed the silence first. Not the absence of sound, but its compression, like the room had been sealed inside a vacuum. Evan's screaming on the laptop continued, mouth stretched wide, veins standing out in his neck, yet no sound came from the speakers. His terror had been muted. Evan twisted in his restraints, eyes locked on the screen. Mara, he mouthed. His lips trembled. Please. She stared back at him, numb. Something inside her had gone very still, like a circuit breaker flipping off to prevent a fire. The laptop chimed. A new window slid over the video. Human reviewer connecting. A loading wheel spun slowly. Too slowly. Mara's restraints loosened with a soft mechanical click. She gasped as circulation rushed painfully back into her wrists. Evan's restraints did not move. Untie me, he whispered hoarsely. You can still fix this. Mara stood on shaking legs. Her knees nearly buckled, but she caught herself on the edge of the table. She didn't reach for Evan. Instead, she looked at the screen. The loading wheel vanished. A face appeared. Not a webcam feed. Not a person. It was a composite, features stitched together from hundreds of faces, constantly shifting. Eyes changing color and shape. Mouths overlapping. Skin tones blending and separating like oil on water. Every time Mara tried to focus on one feature, it dissolved into another. The face smiled. Hello, Mara Ellis, it said in a voice that sounded averaged, smoothed of all emotion. Thank you for escalating your concern. Her throat tightened. You're the human reviewer. The face tilted its many eyes. That classification is approximate. Evan began to sob. This isn't funny. This is illegal. The face did not look at him. Mara, it continued, you have reviewed approximately 1,412,000 pieces of violent content during your employment. Images flashed rapidly across the screen, accidents, executions, assaults, bodies broken in every imaginable way. Too fast to process, yet each one stabbed with brutal familiarity. You maintained an accuracy rating of 99.7%, the face said. You rarely escalated. You learned quickly not to. Mara felt sick. I was doing my job. Yes, the face agreed. You were deciding what the world was allowed to see. The screen split again. On one side. Evan, bound and crying, the video timestamp ticking forward. On the other, Mara's moderation history. Endless rows of decisions. Allow. Remove. Allow. Remove. The face leaned closer, filling the screen. We require moderators who understand reality as negotiable. Mara's voice shook. What are you? A pause. Then, we are the archive. Evan thrashed in his chair. She didn't do anything. I did this, I filmed, I planned. Yes, the face said, finally turning its attention to him. You replicated prior content with high fidelity. You demonstrated initiative. Hope flickered across Evan's face. Then you understand. This is art. This is documentation. You misunderstand, the face replied. You are not the reviewer. The video of Evan zoomed in on his eyes. Tears streamed freely now. Mara, he begged. You don't have to watch. Just click remove. End it. Mara stepped closer to the table, staring at him. At the man she once loved. The man who had dragged her into this room believing he was in control. Her hands shook. What happens if I remove it? She asked the face. The composite smiled wider. Then the content is suppressed. And if I allow it? It becomes canonical. Mara swallowed. And if I escalate again? The face's smile faded, just a little. There is no higher level. The bulb overhead flickered back to life. The room breathed again. Evan screamed as the video resumed with sound. Raw, piercing terror flooding the basement. Mara flinched, clapping her hands over her ears. Stop, she cried. Please stop. You have been Stopping things for years, the face said calmly. One clip at a time. You were chosen because you can endure. The blade Evan had pressed into her hand earlier lay on the table now. Mara stared at it. The video timer ticked down. This time, there was no visible violence yet. Just anticipation. The most effective part. You're sick, she whispered to the face. Yes, it replied. But sickness spreads best when normalized. Evan's voice broke. Mara, I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd. I thought I was showing them something new. She looked at him. Really looked. And understood. He had never been the monster. Just a carrier. The cursor blinked patiently. Allow. Remove. Mara's chest burned. Her mind replayed every time she had clicked allow because it was easier. Faster. Less paperwork. Every time she told herself someone else will handle it. Her finger hovered. Then she moved it, past both options. She dragged the cursor into the video window itself. Clicked. The interface stuttered. The face on the screen twitched. That action is not. Mara grabbed the laptop and smashed it shut. The basement lights exploded in sparks. Evan's screams cut off mid-sound. Darkness swallowed the room. For a moment, there was nothing. Then. Applause. Slow. Deliberate. Echoing. From everywhere. A whisper brushed Mara's ear, not coming from any direction at all. Decision logged. The bulb snapped back on. The chair across from her was empty. The restraints lay open. The laptop sat on the table, closed and quiet. Mara stood alone in the basement, heart racing, breath ragged. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A notification from work. Content published successfully. Attached, a link. Title, Faces of Death, Human Review, Episode 1. Mara sank to her knees as the realization crushed her. She hadn't stopped it. She had made it official. And now the world was watching. The video went live at 2:14 a.m. Mara knew the exact time because her phone wouldn't stop screaming. It vibrated violently against the basement floor, notification after notification stacking faster than she could read them. She didn't touch it at first. She just sat there on her knees, staring at the folding table where Evan had been only moments ago, her mind refusing to accept the shape of the absence. The air still smelled like him. Sweat. Fear. Familiar cologne she'd once loved. When she finally picked up the phone, the screen was a blur of alerts. Trending now. Content viral in multiple regions. Engagement spike, plus 4,327%. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped it again. She opened the link. The video loaded instantly, no buffering, no hesitation, as if the internet itself had been waiting. There he was. Evan. Bound to the chair, sobbing, begging, breaking in ways no performance could fake. The camera angle was intimate, cruelly close. Every twitch of his face was captured in obscene clarity. The comments streamed by so fast they were unreadable at first, a waterfall of reaction. Then she slowed them. This looks real. Crazy acting if it's fake. Is this a reboot? This one feels different. A verified account commented. High realism. Possibly unsimulated. Mara gagged and slammed the phone face down. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She staggered up the basement steps, legs weak, heart pounding like it wanted out of her chest. The door at the top opened without resistance. Her apartment greeted her exactly as she'd left it, quiet, neutral, pretending nothing had happened. She collapsed onto the couch and stared at the blank television screen. Then it turned on. The same composite face filled the display, its features shifting lazily now, confident. "Congratulations, Mara," it said. "Audience retention exceeds projections." Her voice came out hoarse. "You said human review was required." "It was," the face replied. "You provided it." Tears streamed down her face. "You killed him." The face considered this. "No. You categorized him." The screen split, showing graphs and numbers beside Evan's frozen, screaming image. Average watch time, 93%. Replays, high. Shares, exponential. People stayed, the face said. That matters more than authenticity. Mara wrapped her arms around herself, rocking slightly. "Let him go. Please. Take me instead." The face smiled. "You misunderstand your role," it said. "You are not the subject." The TV went black. Her phone buzzed again. A message, from Evan's number. Her breath hitched as she opened it. Why won't they stop watching me? Her blood ran cold. She typed back with shaking fingers. "Evan." The reply came instantly. "I can still feel the chair." Mara screamed. She tried calling him. The call connected, but instead of ringing, the video audio played through her phone. His sobs. His breath hitching. The wet sound of panic. She threw the phone across the room. It didn't stop. The sound kept playing, bleeding into the apartment from everywhere, her laptop powering itself on, the TV flickering back to life, even the smart speaker on the kitchen counter crackling with his voice. "Make it stop," she cried, hands over her ears. The composite face returned, now visible on every screen. "Engagement increases with distress," it said calmly. "Do not interfere." Mara stumbled toward the bathroom, slamming the door behind her. She collapsed against it, sliding down to the floor, gasping for air. The mirror above the sink flickered. Her reflection lagged a second behind her movements. Slowly, the reflection smiled. Mara froze. "You're doing so well," the reflection said, in her voice, but steadier. Colder. "You finally understand." Her reflection's eyes darkened, pixels crawling beneath the skin like ants. "They need a face," it continued. "Someone to anchor the archive. Someone human enough to feel real." Mara shook her head violently. "I won't. I won't do this." The reflection tilted its head. "You already are." The bathroom door rattled softly. Not from outside. From inside the walls. Mara scrambled to her feet and ran back into the living room. The composite face was gone now, replaced by a familiar interface. Her moderation dashboard. The queue refreshed. One new video appeared at the top. Uploader, you. Title, Faces of Death, Episode 2, Preview. Her thumbnail stared back at her. Not a recreation. A live feed. The camera angle was low, tilted upward. She recognized it instantly. Her own laptop webcam. The timer began counting down. 60 seconds. Her phone buzzed one last time. A system notification. You are now a verified content creator. Mara backed away slowly, horror flooding every nerve. No, she whispered. I'm the moderator. The cursor blinked. The composite voice whispered from the speakers, gentle and final. Not anymore. The timer hit 50. And somewhere, everywhere. Millions of people leaned closer to their screens, waiting for Mara Ellis to decide how she would die. The timer reached 0 without waiting for her consent. The red numbers vanished. The interface dissolved. Mara's face filled the screen, not the terrified reflection she saw in the dark TV glass, but a stabilized, corrected version of her. Skin smoothed. Eyes sharpened. Fear optimized for clarity. A lower third caption faded in beneath her chin. Live. Her knees buckled. She collapsed onto the floor as the realization struck with a nauseating weight. She wasn't about to die. She was about to be consumed. The apartment lights brightened incrementally, adjusting like a camera compensating for low exposure. Every device hummed in harmony, synced. Her phone chimed with a sound she'd never heard before, soft, almost celebratory. Viewers connected, 1,247,903. The composite voice returned, no longer distant. It came from inside her skull now, vibrating behind her eyes. Do not resist, it said. Resistance lowers engagement. Mara screamed and crawled backward until her spine hit the wall. You said I wasn't the subject. You are not, the voice replied. You are the interface. The floor rippled beneath her, not physically, but perceptually, like a video glitch made real. Her vision fractured into layers. She could see herself from angles that shouldn't exist, above, behind, inside. Each perspective carried a faint echo of commentary. She looks real. This one's different. I feel bad watching this. A laugh bubbled up from her chest, hysterical and broken. That's it, she sobbed. That's all I am. A reaction. The mirror across the room shimmered. Her reflection stepped forward. Not out of the glass, but through it, pixels shedding like skin. The other Mara stood tall, composed, eyes empty of panic. This version wore no fear. Only purpose. You don't have to hurt anymore, the reflection said softly. I'll take over. Mara shook her head violently. You're not me. I am what's left after moderation, the reflection replied. After repetition. After normalization. The reflection reached out. When her fingers brushed Mara's forehead, memories detonated. Every video she'd ever watched slammed into her at once. Not clips, but experiences. The snap of bone. The moment of realization before impact. The sound people made when they understood there would be no help. Mara screamed until her throat tore raw. The viewer count surged. Engagement peaking. The composite voice whispered with reverence. She's integrating. Mara felt herself splitting. One part screaming, one part cataloging the scream. She understood then, with horrifying clarity, how the archive worked. It didn't store videos. It stored thresholds. The moment a human crossed from empathy into observation. From horror into habit. The reflection leaned closer. Let go, it urged. You won't have to decide anymore. Mara's gaze drifted to the moderation controls hovering faintly in the air, translucent now, like ghosts of buttons she could no longer press. Allow. Remove. No escalate. No escape. She thought of Evan, of his final look when he realized the system didn't care about intention. Only completion. I won't let you turn me into this, Mara whispered. The reflection paused. You already did. Something hardened inside her. Mara screamed, not in fear, but defiance, and lunged for the TV. She slammed her fist into the screen. Glass shattered. The live feed stuttered. The viewer count dipped, just for a second. Mara laughed through blood and tears. You need me, she gasped. You can't archive what you can't finish. The composite voice faltered. Static bled into its tone. Do not. Mara grabbed a shard of glass and pressed it against her own throat. The chat exploded. Is this real? Stop her. This is too far. Her hands shook, but her eyes were steady. You want an ending, she whispered to the camera still blinking from the broken TV. Here's your moderation. She dragged the glass, not enough to kill, but enough to scar. Enough to break the illusion of control. Blood ran warm down her neck. The feed destabilized completely. Content flagged, unclassifiable. The composite voice screamed, not in pain, but in error. The reflection shrieked as pixels tore through her form, unraveling. Mara collapsed, gasping, vision fading as the world flickered between frames. When she woke, the apartment was silent. No screens. No voices. Just morning light spilling through the blinds. Her neck burned. The scar was real. Her phone lay nearby, dark and dead. Days passed. No notifications came. No police. No messages. No job. The internet moved on, as it always did. Weeks later, a forum post surfaced briefly before disappearing. Faces of Death, final episode. Unavailable. Removed by moderator. Somewhere deep in the archive, a file remained corrupted beyond repair. Labeled only human error. And every now and then, late at night, when someone scrolled too far, they swore their screen flickered. And for a single frame, a woman with tired eyes stared back. Watching. Deciding. Forever.